All right. Hi, everyone. I am Giovanni from Solid Ground Studio, and I'm here with my longtime friend Chelsea Coronin from Famined Records. How are you doing today, Chelsea?
Pretty good, thank you. Pretty good. It's my day off. How are you?
Amazing, amazing. So, first of all, thank you so much for being here. It's cool that we both finally had the time to schedule this thing since it's been like quite a while since we tried to do it. But anyway, for those that don't know, my previous band, As a Conceit, has been signed to Famined for about, I think, 3 years or so.
Yep, something like that, like 2015, 2016,
exactly, yeah. And I've been able to speak with Chelsea over time about her work and in general what she thinks about this like huge mess that we all call music industry. And I really think she has some real value to share. So tell me, Chelsea, what's your job at Famined and why the hell you started it?
So while I do have some people that are kind enough to help us out, I do kind of dab into a little bit of everything that we handle, from scouting, reaching out, just going through submissions to like the main A&R stuff. And then I also back in mid 2015-ish, I also picked up press. I started working on press. A couple of people were nice enough to like show me the ropes and show me how to go about it. And I've kind of been picking that up by myself for the past couple of years. I work on marketing, scheduling, and then through Victory Records, which is our distributor, we also tackle all the setup, like metadata and all that kind of stuff. So the submission to the orchard, basically, merchandise, printing, pressing, all of that. So we kind of try to do, on a smaller scale, of course, but we try to do a little bit of everything. And then in the next couple months, we're actually branching out. We hired a couple of different PR companies as well for a couple of our next releases. So we're starting to like branch out, I guess you could say, or like hire third parties to handle another couple of things that we know they can do better, because that's their job.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, and as far as starting it, ironically enough, I didn't start it. I picked it up in 2014. Rick Fortier, I'm probably butchering the last name, dude, I'm so sorry. He started out, I'd like to say 2011, 2012-ish, roughly, which is pretty much when I moved to the States, so I was never involved at first.
Because you actually lived in Italy.
Yes. Yeah, for about almost 20 years, I lived in Italy. So I was born and raised, and then I moved to the States.
And actually, your last name is Coronin.
Coronin.
Yeah.
Coronin.
Exactly.
And nobody can pronounce it anyway. It's fine. It's all right. And I think a friend of mine. I think Rick and I had a friend in common. There we go. We had a friend in common, or like an acquaintance in common. He was a friend of mine. I don't know how their relationship evolved and developed, but we both knew the same person, basically. And I had just moved to Florida for college, so I was going to study music business. And I was just kind of like starting to like see how the United States worked and all that. And my friend is like, hey, I have a friend that's looking to sell his label. If you're interested, I had a different company at the time. So he was like, if you're interested in it and you want to kind of put the two together, you can work with his artists and just like put in the work you've been doing, kind of like rebrand it and just bring your old artists and bring in the new ones that he's still got signed to his label, and kind of like take it from there. So Rick and I got talking. Again, this was like 2014, so it's been like almost 5 years at this point, like 4 years and a half. And every now and then him and I touch base. It's fun because he now has a different company, and he's got a really good ear when it comes to music. I love pretty much anything he's worked on. I loved it, regardless of genre. So he's got a really good ear. And we kind of got talking. So basically, we kind of started out a deal where I'd buy the label and give him like a smaller percentages of the sales from all the bands that he signed, and then kind of like start with a clean slate from anything that I and the new crew would sign onward, basically. So that's kind of been it since 2014. And I mean, there's been a lot of trial and error, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I don't have prior experiences before I even started looking into this. I don't have a past life where I did the exact same thing. So a lot of trial and error. But I've been going at it for pretty much like the past 4.5 years. It was like around May 2014, roughly, halfway through May. So yeah, pretty much 4.5 years. And that's been it since. And then we've had people come and go and help out. And it's been interesting to work with so many different people in like just different regards to how they see things, how they listen to music, because everybody has a different take on like this will sell, this is marketable, this is not, this I enjoy, this I don't,
Sure.
and so on and so forth. So it's been different to like, even though they've come and gone up for obvious reasons, I think it's been great to like work with all these different people from different sides of like the spectrum. Like I had people that love deathcore and technical. I had people that are more like more progressive. I have Hector is one of my good friends that's been helping out for the past year or so, and he's a post-hardcore pop punk kid at heart. And him and I every now and then, like just yesterday, we were talking about the new Amarosa single album and all that. But he's been more into like the progressive and genty kind of stuff too. And he loves the melodic side of it. So it's this whole giant melting pot.
Okay,
kinda.
so here comes my next question, actually. So like I can say that we live in an era, especially now, I think in the last 5 years or so, where basically every band wants to get signed. Or has this like urge to, I want to get signed because this and that. But what do you look for in a band that you want to sign?
So while I don't have like a specific criteria, I do like first and foremost I need to enjoy it.
Of course.
There have been a few times when something very I guess you could say marketable, like something that I know, like if you put it in front of people, it will sell. But it's not true. It's not that I wasn't a fan because I enjoyed it as well, but it wasn't something that I was like fan enough of to back and be like, okay, I'm willing to fund this. I'm willing to invest time in this. It's the kind of thing where like if I hear it on like Spotify radio, I'd be like, all right, this is enjoyable, but let's move on to the next one. So first and foremost, I need to like personally enjoy it. It would have to be something that I'm willing to purchase. If I see it on iTunes, I'd be willing to like purchase it.
Sure.
So that is probably the most important thing. It could sell billion copies. I'm trying to make sure that first and foremost it's something that I personally enjoy. If I'm not willing to buy it, I'm not willing to invest in it. That's
okay.
Pretty much it.
So you're not one of those like label guys who sits in an office with an awesome view of the city, counting dollars and everything. Okay, that's cool.
No, I do count dollars, but for a different reason, probably.
Everyone does.
And we try not to be like that. So we need to like it, and I usually check in with Hector and Riley and Josh have all been around for the past few years. Josh has been around since forever. He's been doing all of our social media work, or like 99% of it anyway. And between him, Riley, and Hector, we all kind of just like listen to a couple of things and jam them out and see if we're all feeling it or not. Most of the times, we all do. Like, it's something we all enjoy. Sometimes one of us is iffy, but overall, if the consensus is like, yes, go ahead, we go ahead. I'll use it as an example, just ironically enough. Windrunner is one of our... I know you're a fan.
I love them.
I think... This was like last summer. Riley touched base with one of them. I think Riley and their guitarist Tron were talking. And the guitarist sent Riley a couple of videos, and Riley sent them to me, and they were just demos. They were just like rough edits of a couple of videos. They weren't like final. But he sent them over. One of them was Rose, and the other one was Sakura. And I listened to Rose, which was still like in the first drafts, so they weren't even done editing the video. And I remember thinking, okay, yeah, this is a yes. So I passed it along to Hector, and Hector was like, it's okay. And he enjoyed it, but he wasn't sold, right?
Yeah.
But Riley and I were like, nah, dude, this is something. Like, we're onto something. So eventually we ended up working with them. And even now, like, it's been one of our best releases of 2018. And Hector's still on the fence. Like, he enjoys them, but they're not, like, his go-to. You know what I mean? Like, we have another band that he absolutely loves, for example. So it's very subjective. But we also, on a certain spectrum, we all need to like it or enjoy it. if somebody's just like a hard no, if one of them tells me, hey, this is just like a hard no, we
Of
usually
course.
move along. So that's as far as like the music aspect goes. Other than that, a couple of things we do keep in mind is like we do need some sort of like following or previous experience. We've less and less throughout the years. We've worked with bands that have no previous touring experience or past releases and such. We've made exceptions. Time Evaluator, when they came to me in 2015, they didn't have, as different members had experiences in touring and such, but as a band, they didn't even have social media. They had one single and that was it. So we've made exceptions. When the music speaks for itself, there's really not much else I'm willing to like say about.
Yeah.
But we try to make sure there's some backing of some sort. If a band comes up to us and they just hit us up with an email and it's like, hey, this is our EPK. It contains our biography, our touring history. We have an album in the works, and this is what we've done so far to prep and then promote it. I'm already 10 times more likely to look into it rather than somebody hitting me up and saying, hey, we dropped this last October. Check it out.
Yeah.
I'll check it, but there's nothing I can do for you in October, especially if you got nothing going on and you're not working on anything.
Absolutely.
It could be a great album. It could be like one of the best things I've ever heard, but you dropped it in October, it's February. You're not touring, you're not working on new music. There's nothing we can provide
Absolutely.
or do for you at this point.
Yeah, I think something that bands now don't understand is that we are not living in the 70s anymore, where like labels drop checks of 50K and tell you, okay, you can do a whole album, take like 3 months, do your thing, bye. But now you have to give labels some sort of proof that you are actually, first of all, serious, that you are taking it seriously, because labels nowadays, and correct me if I'm wrong, can afford to invest a lot of a band that they are not, I think, at least, 80% sure that they can go somewhere. So at least showing some sort of proof, at least.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's why I made the example of like less and less we work with bands that have no previous experience, simply because that's a gamble. And sometimes we're willing to take it, like every gamble. Sometimes we can take it and see how it pans out. Sometimes we just can't risk it.
Absolutely.
I like to believe that Time Evaluator was like a pretty big gamble on my part. Because when they came to me, I've known Phil, who used to be the vocalist, since 2014. He was in a different band. And him and I kind of kept in touch through the years. And when he brought Time to me, everything he's worked on, I enjoyed. And I told him the same exact thing. Everything he's touched, I've been a fan of. In some way, shape, or form, I've been a fan of. So I remember when he came to me, he was like, what can you do if we work something out? What can you do for us? And I remember I offered him probably the biggest advance I've ever offered a band in the first place. And again, with no guarantees that it would go anywhere. They had no social media. They didn't even have social media when they came to me for the first time. But the music was speaking for itself. That's when I'm like, I'm willing. This is the kind of gamble that I'm willing to take. Like, go all in. Go big or go home, they say. So that was an example. But there have been, unfortunately, bands that I've enjoyed in the past where I haven't been willing to, or we're just not financially stable enough to do that. Investing a couple of grands in a band that you have no idea in any way, shape, or form that will make those couple of grands back for a smaller company like us could make a pretty big difference between our next signing and our next paycheck.
Absolutely.
And lack of thereof, basically. So it really depends. Like I said, the main thing is the music. If the music, I believe, is something that we can push and we can put in front of as many people as possible and people will enjoy, then it kind of, even if it's probably not the smartest idea, we're willing to do it. We have an EP coming out in May, I'd like to say. I mean, we're still finessing it, but it's basically May. And we haven't even announced the band yet. We're going to announce them in early March. And it's a really different sound. We've never worked with anything along those lines. It's metalcore meets like some electronic. It's like Paris meets metalcore. So it's some pop-infused metalcore kind of.
Love it.
And it's very weird, but it works in its own way. And I pitched it to a couple of different companies, both management, booking, and press. And everybody's been like, yeah, what do you want to do with them? Like, they're all on board. Everybody I pitched the single to has asked me to work with them. So I know there's something there. And the band like didn't even have a full lineup until like last year. They just have 2 singles out so far.
Yeah.
But there's something there, so we're willing to be like, okay, I'll gamble this. This is like the kind of gamble I'm willing to take, and eventually it'll pay off. So we don't really have a formula to like go back to your original question.
Yeah.
We don't really have a formula per se. We're like, check mark all of this and we'll sign you. We kind of try to take it on a band-to-band basis. A certain couple of things we do look out for. I mean, again, if the music is great, that's pretty much it, really. But a couple of things we do look out for is like either somebody that knows what they're doing. So if you come to me with a plan, hey, we're hitting the studio in May, we're gonna get the mixes back in July. August we're shooting a music video. October we're shooting a second music video. Release March 2020. If you come up to me like that, that's still something that we're willing to look into if we enjoy the music. You have a plan, you want to do this long term, and you're business you're business minded. Because at the end of the day, as much of it is a hobby, it's also a business.
Absolutely.
So the drive, the commitment are also big factors in what we do. And I'd like to say that every single band we work with currently or have worked with in the past has that. Some have gone and signed on to bigger labels. Actually, a lot of them have, like a good chunk of them have. And that shows there's definitely like the drive and that passion and commitment that we have and that we're looking for, they have as well. So just know where you're going, know what you're trying to achieve, and have some goals in mind. That already looks good on our end, and it's something that makes us want to work with you more. If the music is good, that will give us even more reason to like look into what you're sending us in the first place.
Absolutely. So now I've got to ask you something, because I'm really curious to know what you think about it, since we never talk about it properly. And as I think you know, in the last couple of years or so, maybe 3, more and more bands like basically switch from releasing albums or EPs like every other band used to do, to just constantly release new music every, 4 or 6 weeks or so in the form of singles. Due to, I think, the fact that it's not easy for a upcoming band to keep up the momentum after an album gets released, and I know this for sure. And by doing that, they are able to like provide constantly new music to their fans. That at the end of the day, this is the most important thing for a band. And as a label, do you support that? Do you see it becoming the standard? How do you say it?
Yes and no. I think it really depends. There have been times when we've done it in the past, and we've been cutting back on that too lately. I'm trying to think if I do have an example. I think Time to Evaluator did pretty much had a similar approach. It wasn't dictated by the same reasons. They just didn't have. They were working on music as we released them, so obviously we couldn't release something we didn't have, which is why singles were so far apart before the album came. But we've had in the past, and we are actually looking into a couple of bands that are looking to do something similar, where it's just like, hey, we have X amount of singles that we want to drop. We have like 4 singles that we want to drop this year, or 3 singles that we want to release this year. Just to kind of give fans something to hold on to and have content. Because at the end of the day, content is what you need nowadays.
Yeah.
New content that can be pitched and you can actually spread out. And I think it's a bit of a hit or miss. It really depends. The main reason we are trying not to do that is we'd rather invest in something in full and for like the long run. So if you give me 3 singles while you work on an album, I'd rather just have 3 singles that lead to the album. It's easier to market that as a bundle, and for us, especially now that we're working with like a third-party company for press and marketing and all that, their agreements are usually monthly based. So spending, let's say as a ballpark, like $1,000, $1,200, $1,300 on a 3-month campaign for 3 singles, rather than $1,200 for like a 3-month campaign for a full album, I think it's money better spent. Again, it's I'm generalizing, obviously. There's gonna be exceptions, but in general, I'd like to believe that if you're investing $1,200 in marketing for 3 singles and an album, it's money better spent in the long run rather than spending the same amount for 3 singles and then the same amount for 3 singles and an album the year right after, because you had to put something out while you worked on the album. So, ironically enough, I'm talking to somebody else about the same exact thing. Like, we've been emailing back and forth, and it's the same exact conversation. When they're like, singles or album. So again, it really depends also on like what you have in the works. Are you releasing singles because you're going to be in the studio all year, or are you releasing singles because you have the album ready, but you have also a tour coming up, so you can't put out the album? You want to line up the tour and the album, for example, or the festivals and the album, and so on and so forth. So of course, it depends, and there's a different approach from situation to situation. But personally, for us, we've been trying to do it less and less and focus more on releases, like a full actual release. Give me an EP, give me a full length, rather than give me 3 singles and then next year give me an album. I'd rather wait and do it the best way we can rather than putting music out for the sake of putting it out.
Oh, sure.
Just so that you can like keep people entertained, but you're not delivering to your full potential, I guess.
Yeah, because like I see that releasing music constantly has pros and cons instead of releasing an album every year, because you, as you said, keep your fans entertained, but at the same time you're not delivering something meaningful, because an album is something final, is something that it's done, while releasing music, it's just, it seems like that you just wanna make content for the sake of doing content. Yeah, and sometimes it can come off as that. Again, it depends. I don't think there's any black and white for this kind of stuff, but sometimes it does come off like that. It's like, hey, I have singles because I'm not gonna have an album ready this year, so I'll give you singles so you can be entertained. To a certain degree, to a certain extent, I agree. You need content, you do, but you need to still make sure that it's cohesive with like your image and what you're shooting for, and it will lead into the album eventually. If it's just singles for the sake of making singles so that you can like keep people busy while you work on something else as some kind of distraction, I still think there needs to be some sort of continuity or some sort of, not necessarily theme, but there needs to be some tie-in into what you will eventually end up working on, rather than just putting out singles so that people can keep busy while you work on what you really want to release. Like, I think there's 2 different tiers. And I think it really depends on the genre of the band, because I see it a lot on the, let's say, EDM/pop/electro kind of side of it, but not very much on the, let's say, rock/metal side of it. So I think it just depends on the context. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no black and white. Just pick the new Ariana Grande. She has an album that came out today, and she just dropped an album, a full length, like a 12, 13, whatever tracks album 6 months ago. And then, or like Halsey, she dropped an album, and then 6 months later she dropped a single, and she's like, it's just a single. It's just there, it's just chilling, and it's just this random single, and there's nothing else going on. So like, it really, the genre definitely also defines the approach. Next question, being an honest question, if I may. You can try. I just wanted to ask you, do you think there will always be the need of a label and to be signed as a band? It's a weird question, but I really want to know what you think about it. Yes and no. It's funny because I was just thinking about it the other day. I don't think they're a necessity by any means. Like, there's a lot of bands that once they make it big themselves, they can be their own label, because at the end of the day, a label will provide you with better connection, distribution, funding. Yeah, exactly. If you've been around long enough, you got the connection, you got the experience to make the connection, you might be able to get the funding in some way, shape, or form, either because you saved up or because you can just outsource it. And at this point in time, anybody can get a distribution deal. So
while labels offer you something that you might not have right off the bat, once you develop that, like pick Periphery,
Yeah.
they have their own thing going on. They're doing just fine.
Yeah.
But also pick like bands like Dance Gavin Dance. Will Swan has his own record label. And I'm pretty sure that like he doesn't need to be on a label. Like Dance Gavin Dance as an ensemble. Pretty confident they don't need Rise Records at this point. Just look at Will Swan. He has his own label and it's doing fine. Like all the bands that are on it are great. And he's super smart about it because now he has control over anything that looks similar to Dance Gavin Dance. He's got a hand in it too, which is really smart.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure at this point Dance Gavin Dance could break off and be like, nah, we're gonna be our own label. And there's no necessity for them to pick somebody else up, but they can and they will and they have. Which brings me back to the fact that while the labels are not necessarily a necessity, they're still gonna be around. Even from artists that are on labels, that make their own labels, like Stay Sick Recordings,
Yeah.
for example, too. They don't need to pick bands up, but bands want to be on it, and they could use the extra exposure, or the extra funding, or the extra whatever it is. So it's kind of like the cycle, where like it's not needed, but as long as there's demand, there's gonna be supply.
Yeah, and I think that all comes down to adapt or die, basically.
Yeah,
And
kinda.
for labels, bands, like everyone, you just need to be aware of where things are going, where the industry is going. And as long as you know that sooner or later you have to adapt somehow, I think you will do just fine.
Yeah, no, I agree. Don't be the next blockbuster. I agree. It's just not something that there must be, but it keeps happening. It's kind of like a cycle that just keeps repeating. So while it's working as a machine, it's gonna keep happening. While there's no stopping point and everything and the gears kind of keep turning, it's just not gonna stop. Like I said, it's not needed, but then bands tend to gravitate towards the label. Eventually, at some point, there have been a lot of bands that broke off of a label and like, we're gonna be DIY, and then they just get a really good deal and they just jump onto the next offer because it helps them progress the band and the brand and what they're trying to do for a living. So there's gonna be times when it's not needed. There's gonna be times when like, if you hit the right check mark, you're just gonna be on a label, and when you do, that's going to bring more attention to the label and more bands will want to come in, and it kind of just keeps recycling itself pretty much.
Absolutely. So Chelsea, where can people find more about yourself? Where they can spam your inbox? How?
So we have, we're on all social media. We have our own website, obviously, FamineRecords.com, and pretty much anywhere on like anything that are our pages, you can find our contact information. It's info@FamineRecords.com. We just opened a different one for submission specifically. It doesn't really matter if it's just for like any kind of inquiry at this point, of any kind really, kind of like anything generic. And then we have submissions at FamineRecords.com, and you can actually hit us up with your EPK if you have one, or any kind of information you want to share about your music and your band. I think I gotta check. I think our Facebook page also lists like individual contacts, like Riley's, Hector's, Josh's, my own, and Tyler's, and so on and so forth. It should. I don't know if we've actually updated Facebook in a minute, so it should. It most likely still does. So, but we're pretty easy to reach. Both. Myself, Hector, Riley, all of us kind of every now and then get just like friends requests. We're not businessmen. We're very approachable. If you want to hit us up and send us something via Facebook, like, chances are we'll check it. Like, just be mindful about it. I've had people that just send me a link, and I'm like, hi to you too.
Hey, check my band.
Not even, it's just a link, and I'm like, you might want to open with hi.
Wow.
But other than that, like, chances are we'll check it. We need to find a time, of course. Like, we all have day-to-day lives. But chances are we'll check it. Like, it doesn't have to be formal. It just needs to be smart. Like, give us what we need to know, and give us something that we can work with.
And at least say your fucking name, for God's sake.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That would be nice.
Just
yeah.
A minor introduction would be nice.
Yeah.
I had an exchange with somebody that sent me a link, and they're like, hey, are you looking for bands to sign? And it was a link, and I was like, hey, what's up? How are you? And they were like, fair enough, you got a point there. And so like we started chatting, and I was like, okay, cool. And then I checked the band, the music is great. So like, you never really know how it could go.
Yeah.
But we're all easily reachable. We're all on social media on certain degrees. I just have the Messenger app installed. I don't actually ever use Facebook, but I have the Messenger app. So I'm easy to reach. I got WhatsApp, I got emails. So like any of us can be hit up. Any of us will get back to you in some way, shape, or form. If you're giving us something we enjoy or that we want to know more of, or that we simply just enjoy as in like, oh hey, you got a new fan kind of thing, we'll get back to you. I've discovered more bands like this, just like random people hitting us up and like, maybe I'm not willing to sign it, but this is good music. Like, I'll back you up. Like, if you have an EP, I'll buy it. I was talking to an old friend just recently that I haven't spoken to in years. He was one of the first bands we signed back in 2014, and he just kind of made a comeback. And his band, I think it's Common Rage, and they're in Turin right now. And I haven't spoken to him in forever, pretty much. And he's like, hey, did you check my single out? And I was like, I actually haven't had the chance, but let me. And it's really good stuff. And I'm like, I might never sign it, don't get me wrong, but it's good stuff. So I was like, okay, cool. When you guys put out the next one, let me know. I'll buy that one too. When you guys put out DP, let me know. I'll buy that. So there have been some really interesting and good discoveries throughout the years so far. It's been fun.
Amazing. So, Chelsea, thank you so much for taking the time to join me to do this thing. And finally we had the time to do it, and it's been a real pleasure to chat. So guys,
of course,
band dudes, don't spam Chelsea inbox. Just introduce yourself, say at least your name, what the heck you play, and just say hi. So thanks again, Chelsea, and
yeah, of course.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah, have a good one.